Thank you very much, Frank, for your very kind introduction. Nice to have a short one for a change. I'm sure you're all going to be very sleepy after a very sumptuous lunch, but nonetheless, let me just greet our distinguished set of leaders here present, and I'm very honored to have them here today. Let me greet Governor Felix Camacho and lovely wife Juliet. Thank you. Julian, I'm sorry, Joanne, I'm sorry. Got it finally. Woo. I just got this now, sorry. And of course, the Honorable Judy T. Won Pat of the legislature, Madam Speaker. Let me try that with the glasses. Might be better with 4 eyes. Of course, my good friend Bob Underwood, former Congressman and President of the University of Guam, former Governor and Mrs. Joseph Ada. Where's Joe? Hi, Joe. How you doing? Victory Joe. All right. Of course, Lieutenant Governor Frank Blas, the Public Auditor whom I just met, Doris Flores Brooks, the Honorable Consul General of the Philippines, Oliva Palala, my brother, he's the younger brother, I will concede that, Mayor James Gordon of Olongapo, where's Wong? There he is, and the Vice Mayor Cynthia Cajudo. I think most of the people of Olongapo are here, so I don't know who's running Olongapo right now. And of course, former Speaker Jose T. San Agustin, Chamoros, Filipinos, Americanos, mga amigos, Mark Pangilinan, who's a very good friend of mine here from way back, my fellow citizens from the Philippines, and ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Hafa Aday. All right. Is it Aday or Aday? I haven't been here in a long time. That shows. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here this afternoon. You know, perhaps it would be appropriate to say that I think I was last year in 1995, and it's always been a pleasure to come down here because Guam seems to be growing and growing and growing, and I think you're all in transition right now, considering the fact that a lot of people are thinking from the Japanese to the U.S. government to move more American presence or military presence in Guam. Of course, that could be a boon and a bane, but I'm sure you can make it a boon most of the time. But let me just say that perhaps it might be appropriate to quote, because you're in transition, the words of Senator Robert Francis Kennedy when he said, "The revolution is coming. It will be peaceful if we're wise enough, compassionate if we care enough, successful if we're fortunate enough. We can affect its character, but we cannot alter its inevitability." I've gone through many revolutions in my life, and one of which was the great transition that occurred about 19 years ago. I took over the city of Olongapo in 1980, and at that time it was known as a Sin City. After all, we had a base town. It was a one-horse town. We didn't have any industry, no agriculture, no commerce other than the U.S. Navy. It's a great time for all of us out there, but of course, we were always caught in the middle of the politics of the Philippines. Nationalist sentiments, thinking that America was really putting pressure on our mindset, creating a cultural hangover that we cannot get rid of. I sometimes wonder whether these nationalists are really that smart, because I think we still are suffering from that colonial hangover, meaning to say victimization. I don't believe I'm a victim. I'd rather be a volunteer, I'd rather be a victor all the time. So the presence of America, to my mind, was a great boon to me. After all, it sent all my siblings and myself to school. And all you needed was the work ethic to be able to get things done and get the family together and the community together. It also showed us how to live with a foreign element, and therefore it prepared me to what I am today, a Senator of the Republic, a Governor of the International Red Cross, one-time President of the Pacific Asia Travel Association. I can get along with everybody. So you just have to make sure to take advantage of everything that is thrown at you to make sure that you get better as you go along. I don't look at the negatives. I try to make positives out of the negatives. And at that time, people said, "Oh, you have AIDS because American bases are there. You know, they had AIDS out there." And I said, "No, we don't have AIDS. We have AIDS because we count them. We fix the problem rather than fix the blame. And if you have AIDS, your age is much worse. It's called acute intelligence deficiency shortage." And so I would always do that because always we were on the forefront. We always got blamed, and they would always say, oh, you've got crime, etc. So I made Olongapo a model city with the help of the people, of course. And Governor and all of you are leaders here in the community in your own right. I'm sure you don't need Bob Underwood to teach you that in order to effect effective change, you have to have a combination. Leadership and people must be part of the process of change. And you've got to have people with you all the time to know where to go. I've always said it is better to know where you're going and not know how than to know how you're going and not know where. Because most of the time, everybody will tell you, I know how to get there, but it's just, especially in my country, I would say it in Tagalog, ang galing ng Pilipino, ang problema, lahat tayo magaling. Which in English means, the Filipino is very good, the problem is, we think we're all very good. I think the same thing with the Chamorros. At least that's what Madeleine Bardalia told me a long time ago. Anyway, let me just say that, therefore, that as we go along, let me just say that, like I said, it's a boon and a bane, but I'd rather think that if it as a boon, we went on and made Olongapo a model city. We had the color code of jeepneys. We made sure that the first thing I said, unfortunately we don't have a PowerPoint, the first thing I said when I became mayor of Olongapo was what this country needs. I just got elected. It's not just a change of men, but a change in men. Attitude is what is needed. It's always better to let everybody know that, the first A word is attitude. The next A word is assertion. Once you know that you've changed your attitude, you can assert yourselves right away, especially if you know where you're going. And having said that, I always cajole our people to aim high. The Spanish, Magellan discovered Guam, but the Philippines had the first Asian to beat the colonial invader. To be sure, the Koreans gave us the original Statue of Liberty, not in New York. That's a myth. The lady up there, you don't know whether she was a lady, big stomach, etc., with the light. She's a nice symbol of freedom, and I like her, but I'd like to think that she was a real person. So when I went to Korea, I would visit the Korean War Memorial for the Filipinos who died in Korea. And the Korean said, do you have relatives here? I said, no. Why do you keep visiting the Filipino War Memorial? Because these are all of my blood. And by the way, you forgot about them, because without the contribution of Filipinos with other countries, you would not have the prosperity that you enjoy today. And so I said, why don't you follow the French? The French gave a Statue of Liberty to the United States in New York, and because of the influence of the American Revolution, the French removed the divine right of kings and put in a republican form of government, liberté, équalité, égalité, fraternité. And I said, what do you want us to do? Well, I can give you a suggestion. Why don't you give a gift of the monument of the first Asian to beat the colonial invader? And who's that? The colonial invader from the West was Ferdinand Magellan, and the guy who killed him, or defeated him, not killed him, was a guy by the name of Lapu-Lapu. He was a Cebuano Filipino from Mindanao. And so all of a sudden, they came over and got 18 million pesos, got a 10 outstanding young man in arts to put up a monument in honor of Lapu-Lapu. We are all taught in the Philippines that the first the guy who conquered Magellan was a guy by the name of Lapu-Lapu. But later on, because of poor attitude, because we don't have ambition, we made him into a fish. And that's correct. And we made him into a murderer, I think Bob knows what I'm talking about, because you have to look at it from the perspective of history. In our national anthem, when we were kids, we sang it in English. We used to say, nay shall invader trample our sacred shores. Or in Tagalog, sa manlulupig di ka pasisiil. Which meant, of course, as I said in English, we will not be, overcome by the invader. And so Ferdinand Magellan, who was guilty of hubris, attacked the Filipino, and at that time there was no Philippine Islands. We were named after Felipe II, who I understand became a madman. And that's why I think we're called Philippines, and a lot of madmen exist in the Philippines right now. I just wrote a big report in the Blue Ribbon Committee about madness in the Philippines. Anyway, having said that, I talked about Lapu-Lapu because I want to talk about definition as well, not just attitude. We have to define ourselves. We have to define the kind of people we are. That's what I always tell my countrymen.